my content on audio streaming platforms like Spotify or other platforms. So then you type in ASMR, and there you'll find a lot of, if you want to listen audio only. I would like to draw a dinosaur for the first time on this channel. And this is a topic for a video I've been thinking about doing for quite some time now. If you have this one ramble video about geology, map, something, multicultural geology, new interests, new topics, but video reasons. And I actually took a course on the about dinosaur facts, dinosaur and evolution. It was so interesting. Just kept collecting information, and I never felt ready for recording a video about it. But I want to do something about the dinosaurs, so I will start by drawing a species of a dinosaur and see what happens. I'm not sure if I will do 3. I've been thinking about doing 3 to start with. But today I want to draw and talk about Allosaurus. And yeah, first I do some loose sketching, try to get the overall shape. Okay, videos. Maybe I will erase a bit here to make the skull, the face too detailed. Sketch. And I will choose another cell, harder graphite in this one. So Allosaurus had this characteristic brow just above the eye. Here, eye. And they, very sharp teeth, but they were not tooth compared to, for example, Tyrannosaurus that later evolved. I did something with the eye here. So it's actually the bone here in the facial bone, lacrimal bone, the socket. The eye socket is here, in the skull, and the antorbital fenestra. That is common for, at least for all theropods, because Allosaurus is a theropod. Dinosaurs now, I can't remember. Maybe that's defining a dinosaur, that they all have this antorbital fenestra. I know all theropods have it. And then the temporal fenestra here. Two temporal fenestra, or yeah, one. Of course, there's one left and one right. The inferior temporal fenestra, and then on top of the skull is the superior, characteristic for diapsids. That's why they're called diapsids. Two holes here in the skull, and of course an eye socket, and then this characteristic antorbital fenestra, and then holes in the skull. I'm thinking of notice. The antorbital fenestra and the eye socket is the lacrimal bone. Here's the post-orbital bone. Here's the maxilla bone. Here's the dentary bone. And the angular and surangular bones and the fenestra here as well. And one thing that is characteristic for neotheropods, almost all theropods are also neotheropods. It's like in the phylogenetic tree, all the famous theropods are neotheropods, that they have this joint here, so that's also helping them, and to be really good at catching prey, because it makes the jaw more flexible. It's like a small joint here, more flexible if they catch a prey, bite prey, and then hold it. So, but it doesn't. I will not keep it. It's not visible from the outside, probably. Of course, we have skin of a dinosaur, only the bones. Yeah, it's just very. It's just, but it is like a small. And a characteristic for called the Teta Nuri, is that they had the front of the jaw. I think be not more to the front than the eye socket, then the teeth should not be seen here. So yeah, front of the eye socket you have the teeth. It can be a Teta Nuri. Teta Nuri is that includes most of the famous theropods, but the Ceratosauria, which includes the Carnotaur and some theropods, they still have more crocodile-like jaws with the teeth. But just like Tyrannosaurus and other famous Velociraptor, and a lot of them had this feature. The Tyrannosaurus had one of these brow over them, and then they also had a low ridge, which is one on each side, but here you can only see one, extended from the bones. So it's like a ridge here. And the purpose of is believed to have been maybe one of the most common reasons, theories for the reason is that it had a strong, significant color, red for example. They are all with red horns like this. It could maybe have been a weapon for combat, but maybe they were a bit too fragile, because they were covered with keratin and were quite fragile. So maybe a theory with that it also attract mates. Top of the skull somewhere, I haven't been able to see more exactly. Allosaurus had some kind of ridge, like saurids, for muscle attachment under the neck here, where the neck starts. Allosaurus have a very powerful neck, so there are a lot of muscles here. Some of them probably attached to each. That is quite unique for Allosaurus skull, but some have it also. So they could have very powerful, flexible neck, prey, with their jaws, powerful jaws, and then they could do like gaping ability, bite the prey, and then as the prey were trying to escape, the neck to hold it. So it was an epic. It was quite actually, but compared to later dinosaurs that lived in the late, if I have mentioned it already, when Allosaurus lived, it was in the late Jurassic period. Bumps along the spine all the way from the neck. Yeah. And they had a really long tail to compensate, balancing the whole big, large body and super big hind leg. Compared to, for example, late Cretaceous, and for example the hind legs, they had evolved even more powerful and even more running fast and everything. Cretaceous period was around 100 to ago, and Allosaurus lived in late to 55 to 145 million years ago. So it's between the two, but almost actually. So you could say that Allosaurus, I guess Allosaurus or Tyrannosaurus is close to Allosaurus actually. They look quite similar from the first glance maybe. So the length of an average Allosaurus is 8.5 meters long. And that's in average, and the height was 5 meters or 16 feet. I think the largest one that they found was maybe 9 or maybe those were 10.5 meters in length. And companions are later theropod, Tyrannosaurus rex, that I was referred to in this video because it's the most, they could be 12 meters in length, so it was a bit smaller. They're like more slender, large powerful legs. And the arms were quite small, but not so small, they would have been something like this. So the arms were still, they had 3 fingered hands, 3 claws. And Tyrannosaurus only had 2 claws. I think it's a big difference. All dinosaurs evolved from Archosaur when they had 5 fingers, just like as humans. But then the first and fifth digit started reduced for the theropods. Both on the characteristic footprint for the theropod is 3 toes, like this. Pedal 1 and 5 digits are from Allosaurus and other theropods. But still not that small and very powerful forelimbs for Allosaurus. This looks so. Rib cage was quite bulky built, broad, large rib cage. They were not connected to the spine, connected to the front, like front of the body somehow, or not front. How do you refer to this in anterior? I guess anterior, posterior. So the anterior. Then, of course, there are the characteristic hip bone for dinosaurs and for especially saurischians. All theropods are saurischians, and the saurischians had hip bone looking like this, with a pubic bone pointing forwards, ischium pointing backwards, and then the sacrum, or that was some sacral vertebrae that was fused together. For Allosaurus, there were 5 sacral vertebrae fused together, and the more fused together, the more powerful legs you can have, and like more muscle for the tail and for the very strong hind limbs, of course. Let me just spinal bumps. And the pubic bone for the Allosaurus, it looked like a foot. It had this shape and then a shape like this, foot. Foot shape may have existed when the animal was sitting on the ground. In muscle attachments, even more muscle attachments. It had a quite short neck, thereabouts. That consisted of 9 vertebrae. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here somewhere, cervical vertebrae. It's a bit annoying that I never finish these bumps. I like that silhouette of the animal. The tail is very long, as you can see. That's almost half of the animal. To balance this very heavy, strong body. So it was an apex predator, the Jurassic of its time. But there have been found also carnivores that were even larger, probably. But maybe they were niched in different areas. So maybe the Allosaurus, for example, the forest, or the Allosaurus niche was the plain fast and hunt on the plains. Torvosaurus is another theropod, Allosaurus, that was probably a bit bigger, or maybe that was the apex predator. Also Ceratosaurus, with a characteristic nose horn. Ceratosaurus, yeah, I mentioned that group before. It's the same belly sauridae, and they had the crocodile teeth on the mouth. showing a reference picture. I kind of like these profile images on the side. Different species, different genera, families. The teeth are pointing a bit, making it impossible for its prey to escape, probably. And yeah, it had a furcula, or wishbone, here. The clavicles that we humans have on, just like in birds, they were fused together into one single bone. The reason why so many bones were fused together, and also why there were so many holes, it was good for the evolution to be more and more lightly built as they grew bigger, so they could run fast and everything and not be too heavy compared to this. Many bones were fused to reduce weight, like a framework. Dinosaur skulls are often, and very famous dinosaur. It has been known for a very long time. It was first discovered in 1869, so it's quite. And then the guy who found it, Hayden, and vertebra from the tail, I think it was. And vertebrae on dinosaurs were quite different from the vertebra previously found. It has been described hourglass shape, and they thought it looked like a horse hoof. That's why Othniel Charles Marsh later named this species. It comes from Greek allos, that means strange, other, or different, meaning lizard. Strange shape of the vertebra in the tail that they had found. But later they have with that type of that shape in the vertebrae. The name was coined during the Bone Wars in 1877. Bone Wars that occurred during 1870s. It was a war, not a war, but it was a fight between Othniel and Charles Marsh and the other paleontologist Edward Drinker Cope among new species. And they also tried so hard to find new species and families and genera that they sometimes knew dinosaurs that wasn't really a new dinosaur. It was the same already discovered species, but they wanted. It was like a fight who could come up with most new dinosaurs, discover most. And that was a very intense period in the dinosaur history, of course. So then Allosaurus was discovered, and then in 1916 found a 95% of an Allosaurus, and that's like very unique that you have so much of the skull of a dinosaur. And it was named Big Al. The first fossil was found in 1969. It's also been found in Cleveland and Utah, as well as in Portugal and Tanzania. Frequent fossil is the species Allosaurus. A lot of them found in Morrison Formation. Other species, for example, the Allosaurus Jimadseni, I think it's called, and that's the species that Big Al species is the Jimadseni. Another species found in Ports Europaeus, but maybe that's just Allosaurus fragilis with another name. In late Jurassic, it was not far from North Europe, especially not the Iberian island. It was an island back then, I think. So Pangaea had just quite recently split up, and the Atlantic started to be visible. So it was sunk in Portugal, but not much. And not much between North America, today's Northern Europe and Central Europe, like Nordic countries. Nordic countries was all Greenland, with no Atlantic Ocean in between. Greenland was attached. Maybe I can draw a quick map of that after I finish this one. Drawn so many dinosaurs, so I'm trying to figure out how to do it in a nice way. But of course, like I said, I have a reference picture from online. Link to the reference picture. I think there will only be Allosaurus in this video. It could be nice to have one video for each dinosaur. I can see it takes some time and to ramble about it at the same time. Some claws are visible here. There are 3 of them. And also a 5th one and a first one. It's very reduced. I think I have made the tail a bit too thin. It doesn't look that heavy like in my reference picture. The spine consisted of 4 bones, which was very long, and 5 on this large hip bone, the ilium part of the. So yeah, the more there are bones here, the more to the muscles and the more power. I think I have read that approximately 20 miles per hour. I also read that it did something called flesh grazing, I think it was called. So it like, because the joke too, yeah, again, Tyrannosaurus. So the Jurassic was the time for very large herbivorous dinosaurs, the really big long-necked dinosaurs. Stegosaurus, another famous dinosaur from this time, herbivorous. One theory is because Allosaurus is not that big, so maybe it also quite small teeth if you compare it to other species. So maybe that they like bite those big animals and meet with the teeth, but the animal could run away and start and continue to live, even though yeah, Allosaurus didn't have to kill the animal. Interesting. I'm not much into drawing precise and very detailed these problems finished, but I think they're good to include to get the overall expression and shape of an Allosaurus, of course. Yeah, the big owl found in 1990. You can see a documentary, a nature documentary about Big Al that was in 2000, like a special episode, Walking with Dinosaurs episode. I've seen that one. Really fun to see. Until he died, Big Al. How they just interpretation of how the bones looked. Injuries on the bones, for example, they found. So symmetric here, 3 prominent claws on the forelimb and 3 behind on the foot. And I think I'm quite happy with the result here. I don't think I will continue much more now. I will zoom out, of course. Dinosaur. I could at least add some darker color to make them a bit more visible. And I can make a super simple of the continents, how the world looked, the continental of the Earth in the late Jurassic period when Allosaurus roamed. So here's Gondwana, consisting of today's Africa and South America. Here you can see today's India subcontinent, after to Australia, Antarctica. So here you can see that I already, and India will eventually start its jump to Eurasia. And here's something called first the Gulf of Mexico here, and then the Central Atlantic Ocean here. Part of the Atlantic Ocean that was created. Because in Pangea's time was in, because they all start with the letter P, so it's easy to remember. Permian was the time for Pangea. And of course you can't tell it exactly in such a slow pace, this movement. It was attached to North America, like this. And here's Antarctica, I guess, here. Baltic has a very stable continental crust. So Greenland, Appalachian Mountains, all those mountainous areas, Scandinavian mountains, the mountains in Scotland, Appalachian mountains, and mountains they are like remnants from the same mountain range. But here they had started to split up a bit. So you have the Atlantic Ocean, what would become the Atlantic Ocean here. And it's like an island, what's not Turkey, Anatolian Peninsula, Siberia, North China, and the big Tethys Ocean, Asia. So the Morrison Formation in Colorado is here somewhere. Cleveland Lloyd, so it's in the central or more to the west, where a lot of Allosaurus have been found. And in Portugal, Tanzania. This has been distributed over the Earth. And its ancestors probably also lived during the same continent, everything, the Pangea continent. can also include the allergenic tree here, because I think it's so interesting with the theropods. Theropods, it's such a famous group of the dinosaurs. So many famous theropods. They're very popular in popular pop culture. Jurassic Park, movies. The scene when they are traveling in those transparent. Then the Allosaurus. There are Allosaurus. There, Allosaurus. Wonder which one that is. I never remember that. If it's the second one, it's not the first one. Maybe the third one or fourth. It's theropods. And here's the next theropods. So here they got the intramandibular jaw, the lower jaw. Also they got the furcula fused bones in the chest. The manual was lost, so they only got 4 fingers here. And in the middle they had 5 or more sacrals, fused bones together. And the pedal digit very reduced. So started to get the 3 characteristic toes, foot. Here the Coelophysidae. By the way, theropod means ancient type of neotheropod called Dilophosauridae. Also a famous one from Jurassic Park 1. Not very accurate to how they looked in reality. And then there are the Averostra, meaning bird snouts. And a branch from here, the Ceratosaurus, the horned lizard. With Ceratosaurus, I mentioned them quite a lot, because they have those crocodile teeth, still have the crocodile teeth. And here somewhere, the front of the jaw, we have the Tetanuria, which means stiff tails. So the famous one can be included in this group. Here we have a branch with the spino, meaning, and here's the Spinosaurus, very famous one. I would love to give the Spinosaurus, it's so characteristic with a big sail on its back. The Avetheropoda, the bird theropods. So now it's more and more similar to today's birds, because birds are actually dinosaurs. They are all birds living to taxonomy, phylogenetic tree. So yeah, all birds, but not these branches. Avetheropoda, from here we have a branch with the Carnosaurs, the flesh lizards. Carno meaning flesh. Yeah, saurus meaning lizard. And Allosaurus is part of the Carnosaurs. So yeah, a bit ancient form of the theropods. Now I'm going to continue to a bit modern, I mean Cretaceous ones, and some of the most famous ones. Here we have the Coelurus lizards, including all the birds. From here we have the Compsognathus, also famous from Jurassic Park. That too, when the girl in the beginning on the beach, very, so don't forget it, I guess. And all these very small dinosaurs, the Compsognathus. She found one and found it very cute, but then they're not so cute anymore. And then there are the Tyrannoraptora and the raptors together. And from here we have I mentioned Tyrannosaurus so many times in this video. And if we towards today's birds, we will reach Maniraptora, Paravis, Raptora, the raptors, also famous dinosaur theropods, and also protofeathers, protofeather here, the first Coelurosauria, kind of protofeathers, and the raptors have probably feathers also. Powered fly dinosaurs and birds come here, but let's talk about that in a later video when I have an example. Now we ended here. So thank you so much for watching. It's been really fun this video. I hope you enjoy. And let me know if you want to see a special dinosaur. What idea favorite dinosaur, and I can see which one seems to be the most popular one. So thank you so much for your support and for what. Sleep well.